Chris McLean is 99% psycho, 1% bad hair. After binge watching all 8 seasons of total drama, including the reboot series, I've discovered a terrifying number of absolutely unhinged and pure evil crimes this really not hot reality TV host has to answer for. Just try buying your way out of these offenses, Chris McFellin. Actually, don't. Number 1 on the list of places Chris McLean should never have been is definitely naked in a hot tub with Alejandro. No amount of context could ever make this not look creepy.
Including my swim trunks.
Second on the list would probably be Area 51. In the episode of The X-Files, Chris is plane lands safely in Area 52, the less cool area right outside Area 51. So why has McLean brought the teens to the most tightly protected military base in the world? For another dumbass challenge, of course.
Into Area 51 without getting shot, gassed, plasma rayed, or otherwise killed. If anyone does get all exploded, each team must find a genuine functioning alien artifact inside Area 51's, but be careful. The warehouse is loaded with booby traps. Their working artifact back to Area 52.
After getting laser zapped and electrocuted, the teens actually managed to storm Area 51 and retrieve the alien artifacts without getting shot or shipped off to an alien colony to be eaten. While the teens are busy risking their lives, McLean was safe and sound in Area 52. However, he does cross the border one time via jetpack.
Okay, I'll give you a choice. What would you rather do? Whoa, okay, I'm out.
I'm sure he'll argue that he didn't technically trespass on government property because his feet never touched the ground, but that's not how it works, Chris. I mean, literally flying a plane over Area 51 can get you into some serious trouble alone. Despite Area 51 being a government site, the penalty for trespassing is surprisingly only 6 months in jail and a puny $500 fine. Chris got off pretty easy here. He's lucky he didn't get shot dead, though. Naruto running clearly wouldn't have helped him dodge the bullets. With how dangerous total drama is, Chris could at least make the show fair. I think the only way that'll ever happen, though, is if the host suffers serious head trauma and stops behaving like a massive a-hole. So what acts of fraud is this douchebag guilty of? Chris McLean's lying nature was clear right from the get-go in the very first episode when he blatantly lied to the contestants that Camp Awanakwa was a 5-star hotel and not a roach-infested cesspit of doom.
We told them they'd all be staying at this 5-star resort, so that's probably why.
My parents, you cannot make me stay here.
In the episode Basic Straining, Chris allowed Harold to sabotage the vote so he could unfairly eliminate Courtney as petty revenge against Duncan for bullying.
You guys voted for Harold over me?
Yes, it's always a shock.
Oh, seriously, dude, I know for a fact there were 3 of us that didn't vote her off.
And remember when Owen won season 1 of the show after 8 brutal weeks of torture? The team landed on $100 grand of prize money and was so happy until Chris cheated him out of his reward by making the 14 contestants chase a briefcase stuffed with $1 million. Yeah, he knew dang well nobody would ever catch that.
You lost the case.
Chris never plays it straight with anyone, and routinely lies and cheats for his own benefit, and for the drama. Everything Chris did in those episodes alone can be considered fraud, and the crimes would earn him a total of 5 years in prison and a $5,000 fine. $5,000 is basically pennies to him, though. Chris McLean is a major jackass to animals, and I would even go as far as to say he treats the contestants better than he does animals. No comment on his interns, though. In the 2-part episode of Walk Like an Egyptian, Chris made the contestants participate in a camel race to the Nile, but only brought 1 camel. That meant Owen's team had to travel there on his tiny goat.
Oh, this is so cool, Handout.
Little Goat deserves the biggest lawsuit payout ever. Sorry, Owen, but there's no way that goat wasn't carrying over at least 1,000 pounds with you on top of it. An adult goat can only carry around 30 or so pounds max, so I'm shocked the little guy's bones weren't immediately crushed the second that big fella laid 1 elbow on him. Chris created that stupid challenge, so he's to blame for the fate of that poor goat. He definitely deserves to be charged with animal cruelty, and if found guilty, he'd be facing 5 years in prison and a $1,000 fine. But let's double that, because in the episode of Runaway Model, McLean literally makes the campers head out into the woods, kidnap wild animals, and bring them back for a freaky forest fashion show.
Nice new hairdo perfectly complements a dynamite vintage.
Little gross, what with the oozing and squirming. I give it an 8.5.
Where does Chris come up with all these crazy ideas, man? I'm starting to think he might be a stoner. explain a lot. Do you know what happened to Camp Wawanakwa after the end of Total Drama Island? It became abandoned, but Chris still wanted to make a quick buck from it.
I rented the island out to a nice family-oriented biohazardous waste disposal company.
The toxic waste ended up mutating the island's wildlife, creating some straight-up weird and downright terrifying creatures like these guys right here.
The tea leaf said nothing about this.
Yeah, my great-great-grandfather...
Chris knew teens getting attacked by monsters would be TV gold, so campers were sent back to the toxic hellhole for Total Drama Revenge of the Island. But don't worry, guys. He gets karma at the end of the season when the EPA seizes the island and arrests him for all his crimes against the environment.
McLean,
For what?
creating an environmental disaster.
Technically, Chris didn't dump any toxic waste himself, but accepting money from sleazeball companies in exchange for dumping hazardous waste is still a crime, shockingly. Violating hazardous waste disposal laws could land McLean in the slammer for the next 15 years and also slapped with a $250,000 fine to boot. That's like the hourly salary he thinks he deserves for being the world's coolest host. He's not. But wait a minute, Chris violated environmental law once again in the episode Brunch of Disgustingness when he and Chef killed a bunch of innocent cuddly dolphins just so they could feed the campers some exotic wieners.
Delicious dolphin wieners. Hot dogs made of dolphins.
Friends!
That heinous crime will add another year in jail and $8,500 in fines to McLean's sentence for violating the Marine Mammal Protection Act, which makes it illegal to hunt dolphins anywhere in the U.S. Fingers crossed this dude doesn't get anywhere near the entrance to SeaWorld. He might try his hand at dolphin kebabs next time. If you were grossed out that time the campers ate live grasshopper pizza and meatballs,
Matter? You big boys can't eat a little meatball?
Our manhood is at stake.
you better get a barf bag at the ready, because that was practically a Michelin star meal compared to the monstrosities Chris served up in the episode Hurl and Go Seek. After lawyers call Chris out for starving the campers, he wakes the teens up in the middle of the night for a legally enforced celebratory dinner. While pizza and fries were supposed to be on the menu, McLean wasted all the food budget on chandeliers and fancy tablecloths. That means the campers will have to drink this abomination instead.
Chunky chunks.
The contestants will have to chug their bubbling glasses of what looks like vomit as fast as possible to avoid elimination. And I don't know about you guys, but I wouldn't even dip my finger in that for $1 million. Especially not after finding out the secret behind these satanic smoothies.
This stuff expired in 1976.
They're mostly meat, eggs, and mayonnaise, and I kept them somewhere very warm.
Thank you, Chris McLean, for putting me off 3 major food groups for life. The teens start chugging back their vintage smoothies, and Sugar is definitely the biggest foodie ever because her taste buds are in love with the decades of expired meat, eggs, and mayo combo here. The other campers? Well, they're gonna need their stomachs pumped and a whole lot of compensation from Chris after he's finished making them play hide and go seek in the pouring rain.
We should get out of here.
Can't move.
That episode was hilarious, but it's actually very dark when you stop to really think about it. Like, Chris had literally been starving these contestants, and when he was legally forced to give them food, he chose to poison them. If that doesn't prove how sadistic his character is, I don't know what will. McLean committed 2 serious crimes in Her Own Go Seek. His first one was starving the campers. That can be considered a form of torture, and the felony would add 20 years and 10 grand in fines to his sentence. Making the people chug 40-something-year-old smoothies is blatant poisoning, and the crime would land the sicko in the big house for another 5 years and an extra 10 grand, and on top of that, I suppose the diary room toilet was the real victim of that episode, though. Chris spends 8 weeks ruining the contestants' lives, but hey, at least their lives go back to normal once they're eliminated, kinda. The same cannot be said for McLean's interns, who are famously treated like dirt and suffer the most horrific, heinous treatment at their boss's hands. Dakota was lucky enough to not die on the job, but her life was still ruined forever, all thanks to Chris. Does he give a damn? Nope! In the episode On Mine is a Terrible Thing to Waste, Chris is preparing to send contestants down an old abandoned mine to retrieve a golden statue of himself. After explaining the dangers of the toxic waste-riddled mine, he assures everyone that the challenge is still completely safe. After all, Dakota survived down there for 40 minutes and she's totally fine-ish.
No! Chris is a dead man!
It's not until the next episode that the toxic waste exposure really starts affecting Dakota's appearance. At first, she's happy to have grown her hair back, even if it's bright green, but pretty soon she ends up mutating into a hideous giant monster.
We're gonna need
need some elephant tranquilizers.
Her hair's still kind of cool, though, I guess. Chris sent Dakota down the mine to test his challenge, knowing full well she would be exposed to extremely toxic waste. As he's to blame for her transforming into a disgusting monster, it's only fair that he gets charged with mayhem. That's the crime of disfiguring or mutilating a person. And the offense would add 40 years and $100,000 in fines to his sentence. Dakota should definitely sue her evil boss for all the money he has, though. Out of all the horrifyingly reckless challenges Chris's wicked mind has conjured up, Hush or Die is definitely amongst the most diabolical. The game is pretty straightforward. Make it through 3 zones without making any noise. If you aren't quiet, you lose the game and your life. So what life-threatening dangers are in these zones? Well, Zone 1 has a whole frackin' pride of lions and poisonous rattlesnakes.
Sneak through a field of sleeping lions to your lunch. And there are rattlesnakes too. Oh. And our snakes has been slightly diluted.
Zone 2 sounds okay, though. It's just Chef blasting you with pasta. Noodles can't kill anyone, right? Wrong.
Unless the burning hot noodle scream and wake up the carnivorous pasta bear.
Chris reveals the 3rd stage is a freezing cold avalanche zone, and the challenge already looks so deadly I doubt even Katniss Everdeen would want to volunteer his tribute. However, Topher thinks the young athletic teens have it in the bag. Well, not all of them. His arrogance pisses off Chris, so he decides to cruelly crank up the challenge by not only making all the contestants risk their lives for 5 minutes of TV glory, but risk the lives of innocent babies.
So now, everyone will have to carry a special something through the entire challenge. You wake a lion up with a crying baby, and it's not gonna be a party.
Was the hot air balloon really necessary, Chris? After getting chased by bloodthirsty animals and doused in pasta, Team Muskwalk makes it past the finish line, while the other team almost dies of hypothermia underneath an avalanche. But wait a minute, where are the babies? Don't tell me the innocent angels suffocated to death in a pile of noodles! Or even worse, were they eaten alive by the lions? Nope.
In your babies. Lawyers called Chef and said something about danger and baby.
Brother, why is Chris acting like the lawyers are over dramatic spoil sports for not wanting babies to be literally eaten alive? I'm telling you, this guy's clinically insane. There were 8 babies in that episode, so Chris will be getting sentenced to 48 years in jail for child endangerment and fined 80 grand. If that episode taught us anything, it's that if McLean ever becomes a dad, he needs to be reported to CPS ASAP. That is already half of Chris McClaim's insane crimes down, and the loser boat's already taken this nut job straight to jail for the next 144 years and 6 months. The narcissist has also racked up nearly $500,000 in fines. Stick around for these next crimes, though, guys. If you thought almost killing babies was the worst of Chris, you ain't seen nothing yet. You need to have a few screws loose to want to risk your life exploring old rocks. I'm looking at you, cave divers. But the teens of Total Drama Pocket 2 Island didn't even get a say in entering a cave no one has ever come out of. The episode This is the Pits kicks off with Chris announcing a simple and deadly challenge where the contestants race each other across the island in turbo orbs. That already sounds super dangerous and kind of epic if you ask me, and guess what? That's not even the challenge. It's just a way for Chris to capture the teens so he can take them to the real challenge, 500 feet below ground.
You might feel a slight drop.
After narrowly escaping being buried alive by rocks, the contestants separate and head down separate tunnels, one of which is the escape route. 2 of the tunnels also contain dangerous animals like robot crocodiles and a super scary but still fabulous bling bear.
Wait, that's just Scuba Bear with...
Sugar, Sky, Dave, and Sean make it out first, although I'm sure they would have chosen to die in the cave if they had known their escape route would lead out of a frackin' toilet. You really are a sick man, McLean. Chris loses surveillance footage of the underground contestants, and instead of sending his interns in down to die rescuing them, classic Chris immediately plans to escape the island and save himself from 8 murder charges.
I have lost the kids. Better grab our getaway bags and fake passports.
Jasmine and Topher make it out through a gopher hole, and Max and Scarlet hijack a secret elevator. I thought this was an ancient cave. 4 contestants lost their dignity in that episode, but at least nobody died. As for Chris, he's earned himself a lot of jail time. There's multiple crimes we gotta cover that McLean committed in that episode. First, he falsely imprisoned the teens underground. That crime will add 4 years to his sentence and $5,000 in fines. Next, Chris assaulted Max with a remote-controlled robot crocodile dial that'll increase his sentence by 32 years. Plus, he's getting slapped with a massive $750,000 fine. McLean could also be sentenced to 1 year in jail and fined $2,500 for health endangerment because, he built the escape route under a frackin' outhouse. And lastly, he admitted that he owns a fake passport. Forgery will get him in prison for the next 15 years and fined $250,000. All in all, that's 52 years in the Stony Lonesome and a hefty $1,007,500 fine for this one episode. Chris will probably have to sell his bling bear to pay off that fine. That sucks. You only need to watch one episode of Total Drama to know Chris doesn't give a flying flukel about anybody. Knowing how selfish and sleazy his character is not exactly shocking news that he's also an extremely negligent host. I'm not talking about forgetting to put up a wet floor sign. I'm talking making the contestants jump out of planes without parachutes.
Today's landing is gonna be more of a non-landing flyby. Come on, let's go, go, go! Please don't let me land on my kiwis!
Not properly securing the campgrounds, resulting in Cody getting mauled by a bear.
To win. I almost made it all the way through without being hit by a single paintball. Berries.
Big fella, want some berries?
Lindsay getting kidnapped by a Yeti.
Hey, he took my jetpack!
And Cameron sustaining life-changing injuries at the hands of zombie Ezekiel. Chris even made him take the flush of shame instead of taking him to the hospital.
Yeah, not how I wanted to celebrate the 100th episode of Total Drama.
Need I dare mention that McLean also caused a literal volcanic eruption by making his contestants throw pineapple into an active crater, blatantly ignoring all the no pineapple signs.
Anywho.
Negligence normally carries a sentence of just 60 days, but if injury occurs, the penalty can get bumped to as high as 20 years. Chris's negligence definitely resulted in injuries, so he'd be facing 100 years in prison for this crime. He could also be fined $50,000. Seems pretty light considering he almost caused Pompeii too. Being the polar opposite of an empath, Chris loves to put the contestants through as much mental and physical trauma as TV will allow, even when it doesn't allow it. And the cruelty he dishes out is always as dumb as it is horrific. Take the episode Grease's Pieces, for example. Chris made a rule that whenever Duncan talks instead of sings, Chris has to whip him within an inch of his life.
So scared.
You should be. Exhibit A.
Ow!
Shock. Much better.
In the episode Phobia Factor, the contestants are challenged to face their greatest fears, but even after Tyler gets eliminated, Chris traps him with dozens of chickens just to terrify him one last time. We see even more mental torture from Chris in the episode Fatal Drama, where the sociopathic host cruelly tricks the campers into believing they are terminally ill with a disease that doesn't even exist.
Red sores, fever, lemony burps. Aren't those symptoms of one of the diseases in the book?
Nico Crumble's disease, and it's fatal!
Isn't just fatal, it's highly contagious.
In Dial M for Merger, he petrified the contestants again by making them think they were an exploding tower and had seconds to live. Say what you want about Chris, but dude is committed to putting the drama in Total Drama.
Blows in 10, 9, 8, 7.
Chris has also electrocuted contestants by making them press badly wired buzzers.
For pride, maggot.
No! Fine, it was me.
Oh, and also shocked them with shock collars for good measure.
Clearer.
And let's not forget about those abused interns either. If you look very closely at the Total Drama Revenge of the Island opening credits, you can actually see the interns carrying a totem pole while His Majesty whips them for not moving fast enough. Both psychological and physical abuse can be considered torture, so for those 7 counts, Chris is going to be in prison for the next 140 years and fined $70,000. If I were Chris, I'd be more worried about all the lawsuits from former contestants and interns who now require therapy after meeting him just one time. Chris doesn't exactly beat his contestants black and blue. That would break a nail. Plus, he's probably too much of a weakling to even win a thumb war against these frackin' teenagers. His patience is still pretty thin though, and he's prone to choosing violence whenever the teens piss him off. For example, in Paintball Deer Hunter, Chris knocks Owen out for just being Owen.
Beans are good for your heart. The more you eat, the more you...
In 3 zones and a baby, Topher makes fun of Chris for being old, so he orders Chef to blast the little jerk with his pasta gun.
Chef, give me a shot, 10 o'clock.
In the X-Files, Duncan accidentally crosses the border between Area 52 and Area 51, so Chris makes the Colonel laser zap some sense into him.
Thanks for the laser show, Colonel.
Oh, and remember that hysterical episode where Chris got flung into the camp outhouse?
Threw Chris into the outhouse.
I need 5 interns and a fire hose. ASAP.
When Chris finally emerges from the filth and presumably takes 100 showers with extra strong bleach, he's hungry for revenge. So when Scott gets eliminated that night, McLean makes sure he has a little company on the hurl of shame.
Saying thanks for flinging me into a pit of poo.
5 counts of aggravated assault could earn Chris as long as 128 years in jail and a $3 million fine. Plus, we can also throw in 40 years and a $100,000 fine for mayhem because Scott was so brutally injured by the hurl of shame he shared with Fang that he became paralyzed and was doomed to live the rest of his life in a trauma chair. Sad. He was kind of a jerk, but I don't think he deserved something that terrible. Chris for sure deserved to be thrown in the pit of poop, though. If you think your boss treats you like garbage, try being Chris McLean's intern for a day. Warning, a position may result in being eaten alive by scarabs, being eaten alive by sharks,
I know it's weird that you're starting on our last show, but all of the other interns died already. Final challenge and make sure it's moderately safe. That looks safe enough.
turning into a human ice cube.
Hurry. If you fall into the water, we're legally required to save you. We're ready to pull you out.
Literally starving to death.
Behold, my sad, skinny interns.
It's not my fault.
Or perishing on the dumbest mission ever.
The T-Rex skull was my idea. That was worth every intern.
Oh, yeah, and don't count on the douchebag treating your remains with any respect either.
Now, clearly this part of the challenge isn't hard enough. So, time for a musical.
Assuming at least 10 interns were killed bringing back the T-Rex skull, that's 15 intern deaths Chris McLean has to answer for. The max penalty for manslaughter is 25 years of the clink and $5,000 in fines. So for his crimes against his interns, the world's worst boss is going to be locked away for 375 years and fined $75,000. Rest in peace, whatever your names were. I doubt Chris even knew them. Chris once said that coffee was more important than the contestants' lives, and he definitely was not lying because he was the mastermind behind the sickest, most life-threatening challenges ever that are in fact so dangerous, this disclaimer appears on the show.
Do not try any of what you see here at home. Seriously, you can get really messed up.
The teens risk serious injury and death in almost every challenge, but here are some super insane ways the young campers' lives have been endangered just for the sake of TV ratings. In To Make Me Sweat, Chris made the contestants search for pirate treasure by diving off a 1,000-foot cliff into shark and electric eel-infested waters.
Go!
Woohoo! Oh no! Mama!
Cody! You show that shark who's boss!
I got the change!
Oh no!
In Tortoise Rigor Mortis, contestants participated in an Injure Yourselfie challenge where McLean made them take selfies with wild animals.
Send.
In Bigger, Badder, Brutaler, Chris created another life-threatening challenge where campers had 7 minutes to race down a mountain before a bomb obliterates them all into a million pieces.
Quick! Grab the good cabin!
Nice!
Too bad. It had an 8-person hot tub and air conditioning.
And last but not least, in Jurassic Fart, Chris made contestants race from one side of the island to the other. Sounds pretty harmless, but here's the catch. There were man-eating raptors that attack whenever they hear someone fart, and those campers were all fed baked beans for breakfast. After analyzing every single challenge throughout the entire 8 seasons of the show, my conclusion is that Chris has recklessly endangered his contestants in as many as 75 of these episodes. Reckless endangerment carries a maximum penalty of 7 years in jail and $5,000 in fines. Do the math, and McLean is facing 525 years in an orange jumpsuit and has $375,000 in fines to pay. He really deserves to pay out at least $1 billion for all the trauma he's caused the contestants over the years, though. Ever wondered why Chris's eyes are different from the other characters? They're just soulless, beady little black dots. Kinda creepy, but they perfectly showcase his psycho personality. And if you think I'm being overdramatic by calling him a psycho, just know the dude has committed more botched homicides than he has hair gel bottles. In the episode Walk Like an Egyptian Part 2, Ezekiel gets eliminated and Chris makes Chef push the loser out of the plane despite knowing he does not have his parachute on.
You've got 5 seconds to strap this on, or the drop of shame will become the drop of pain.
Bunch of... I'm not going anywhere!
Seconds later, the maniac commits another attempted murder by pushing Duncan out of the plane for not competing in the challenge that day.
Sucks to be Zeke. Last stop for non-competitors. Going the other way, Sue. See ya.
Whoa!
In the episode Chinese Fake Out, Chris's microscopic ego leads him to angrily pushing Courtney and Blanley out of the plane after Blanley tells everyone that she was the producer's original choice for hosting the show.
No, and
Their screams sounded like 2 crows. That's when you know someone's really terrified. Now this is where we move on from pushing people out of planes to borderline terrorist attacks. In the finale episode of Total Drama Revenge of the Island, Chris decided to punk the contestants and Chef one last time by blowing them up, but got instant total drama karma instead.
Always go out with a bang.
Back to bigger, badder, brutaler, Owen showed up on the island hoping to compete again, and Chris could have just said no thanks instead of making Chef strap a bomb to his face.
The other classic players have outlived your usefulness.
In Truth or Laser Shark, 12 contestants were almost drowned and eaten by sharks at the hands of Chris McLean. Lastly, at the beginning of Total Drama Revenge of the Island, Chris gave his new campers a very warm welcome with this little fireworks display.
Most explosive season ever!
There were 43 total attempted murders in those clips, and as the maximum penalty for the crime is 32 years and $1 million in fines, Chris is looking at a staggering 1,376 years in jail and $43 million in fines for basically failing at being a serial killer. All in all, Chris McLean is looking at 2,880 years and 6 months in prison, plus a gigantic fine of $48,143,500. This psychopathic jerkwad got what he deserves. But what about this character? Do they make McLean look like a saint or even more satanic than he does now? Click the screen to find out.